So, complete agreement with what you're saying here, right? Because we live in an environment where it is always chaos, it's always transforming. Our ICP is always in flux and changing. There's an environment that is always changing. I've talked to so many C suite executives, they're like, the 5 year plan's a joke. We don't even do these anymore, right? Like, who can tell what's going on? So, the thing though about identifying the problem, we can never stop doing that, and articulating solutions. It's almost like there's so many problems we're constantly problem solving and so many solutions. Every department, from everybody, we're all smart people, right? We've risen up in our careers to the point where we don't have to ask anybody. Like, we know this is what we need to do. But when everybody has that, here's what we need to do mentality, we got a bunch of leaders with a bunch of different directions, right? How do we bring that together? And in fact, you and I talked about this. There's a study that, I've talked to so many C suite executives, and I asked them the question about what the greatest challenge to long term sustainable growth is. And they say internal alignment. So, in this always problem solving, always having to have solutions, how do we stay in alignment?
Look, you bring up a huge topic, right? Especially in privately held companies. I think so often anyone who starts a company starts off with a clear vision of what he or she may want. And they believe that's the mission and the objective is consistent with that throughout the lifetime of the company. I think that the more success every company has, the further sometimes it gets away from that original mission, or the founder or C suite may no longer understand that everybody else in the company doesn't really connect yet with the purpose or mission of the company. Usually that's again comes back to communication. It's like, people want to be a part of something that matters today more than ever, right? And how do they understand what the company's there for, what the company's there to produce, other than just giving them a job? It's really making them a part of that process. And, every company I've been a part of, there's been a gap where a CEO or a founder or the C-suite in its entirety will feel like, oh yeah, everyone knows. No, no, no. And then you go and you do a poll. Someone from HR will typically send out a random poll and ask people, a series of questions that can see if they actually connect or understand it. Not 9 out of 10 times, but 10 out of 10, Steve. People come back and they don't understand or they're not connected to it yet. And there's a misalignment. You're right.
And misalignment starts at the top. But, there was a gentleman that we had on the podcast, and he had a PhD, and he was a chief people officer. And he proved the formula we all know, we all head shake on, is that engaged employees equal engaged customers equals revenue growth for the company. And what you're talking about, he did a thesis on this for his PhD. And what you're talking about, that communication, it keeps the company in the same direction, but it keeps them in the know, right? We're not going to be engaged when we have no idea really what the direction is. And that sounds crazy, but you illustrated it well 10 out of 10 times, right? We can't over communicate the mission, the direction enough. I mean, that's my takeaway from what you're saying. Is that a good takeaway?
I think that's right. I've recently been reading, how Amazon is going through a transition right now. Even Jeff Bezos led it one way, and now Andy Jassy's leading it a little bit different way. And people are seeing the changes and then acting accordingly to what they think may be appropriate based on what they're seeing the vision or the mission of the company to be. And that's not unique to Amazon. It's true in almost every company, right? Whatever actions are taken leave an impression on people as to, hey, how should the rest of the company work? And therefore, how should they fulfill their responsibilities within that framework? So that tone has got to be, you said it, set at the top. It's got to be set every single day consistently. People are watching, people are learning and listening to what you say, what you don't say, what you do and what you don't do, and then acting how they think is appropriate from there.